Welcome back, everyone. We are on number 23, President Harrison Events, and this is March 31st. Um, we have the information from the periodic presidents that I was telling you about the other day, and we have a little infographic here of the beard bond of several of the presidents. So we talked about this a little bit yesterday, how even hairstyle and fashion changes through history. And so we have all of the presidents with beards, and then we go to the stash connection down here. Okay, let's get into this. First, we're going to talk about legislation. Legislation are the bills and acts that get signed as a president is in his office. Okay, so we have the Sherman Antitrust Act. It was an attempt to keep some of the large businesses. So we have the Standard Oil, we've got the railroads, we've got the steel business right now becoming very, very, very big and controlling. And they're buying up all of the other businesses. And so what's happening is that they're becoming what's called a monopoly, meaning that you have all of the business. Okay? So think about the board game, right? The board game is called Monopoly. Why? Because as I go around, what do I want to do? I want to put houses on all of those different properties. And if I do, no matter where I land, guess what? You owe me money. And that's creating a monopoly where there's no one else to go to. Competition is a good thing for consumers. I want there to be more than one gas station, because what's going to happen is if this gas says that their gas is $2.50 and this one next door is $2.48, there's a healthy competition there that's going to keep them in check. If there's only one gas station and I only have one choice, guess what the price is going to do? Go up, right? Because if I only have one choice, they can say, gas is $3 today, and there's no other competition to keep it in check. So that's what was going on with these large businesses that were controlling whole industries. And the government knew that they needed to step in and regulate that and keep that under control so that these big businesses couldn't control everything and just hike the prices up so high to where no one could afford it. So that's called the Sherman Antitrust Act. Okay, another thing that was continued from Cleveland's presidency was a huge shipbuilding program was begun, and it continued under Harrison's presidency to modernize the Navy. And the ship here that I have a picture of actually on the screen is from the 1890s. So this is what we're looking at. These are the types of ships that are being built to kind of build up our Navy. And then we have, remember when we saw Cleveland last time, Cleveland was not wanting to give pensions to all Civil War veterans. He was looking at each one individually and deciding whether he thought that it was a valid one or not. Was this someone who truly was injured and can truly not work? Then they would get a pension. If it was not someone that was injured during the Civil War, then he would put it to the side and veto it. Harrison, who was a general in the Civil War, thinks that everyone, if you served in the Civil War, it doesn't matter if that's where your injury came from. It doesn't matter if you are injured. Anyone who was a Civil War veteran should get a pension. And so that led to the Dependent and Disability Pensions Act of 1890. So this was to all Civil War veterans. Regardless of what kind of injury it was, when it occurred, you get a pension. Okay. So, now, some more money things going along with how we're spending our money. Okay, the McKinley Tariff, and this is actually named for a future president, McKinley, and this is a tariff that was placed on foreign goods. Remember, a tariff is like a tax, so that, okay, so what's the benefit? If I raise the tariffs on goods coming from England, And I add a tax to that so that when you go to the store and buy it, the price is going to go up. If you're a shopper, what kinds of things are you most likely going to buy? Are you going to buy the product from England that has the extra tax on it that's a little bit higher? Or are you going to buy an American made product that can keep their price lower because they don't have the extra tariff? You're most likely going to buy the American product, right? Because it's going to be cheaper. Most of the time, we don't look at where it's made. We just say which cheaper, and if that's cheaper, that's what I buy. Well, the whole point of this was to give more business to American businesses, but guess what? Surprise, surprise, people are greedy. And when those prices are going up, guess what an American manufacturer is going to do? Well, why do I have to keep my price so low? If that's going up to $3, then I can at least raise mine to 285, right? So the American manufacturers were raising their prices to make more money. So it didn't help Americans out that much. It only increased the prices. And that's the danger with a tariff. That's the danger because businesses most of the time are looking, well, their job is to make money, right? So if they're not making money, how can they make money? To increase their prices. And if everyone is, then hey, let's raise ours too. So it doesn't really help the people. It doesn't help the people. Okay, so what was his foreign policy? Foreign policy means how do you see other countries? How do you deal with other nations? He had more of an aggressive foreign policy, which means he was going to do what was right for our country, and he was kind of maybe not necessarily where if someone has an aggressive policy, they're not going to worry so much about what you might think if we invade or if I come in. You're going to only be thinking about how it benefits your country. That's more of what an aggressive foreign policy looks like. And we'll see that with this example. Okay? So Hawaii was independent. It was not part of the United States at this time. And they had um, a monarchy. They had a king for a long time, but the king it wasn't really a strong rule. He was a king, but he let a lot of the businessmen run things. He was very, very friendly with the relationships between the United States. We had a very good relationship with Hawaii, and a lot of our businessmen had gone down there working in the sugarcane business and making a lot of money down there. Okay, so this queen comes into power, and she was the only queen in Hawaii. And let me see if I can pronounce her name, Lilikalani, I think. So she becomes queen, and she wants to make a stronger monarchy rule. And she starts getting a little bit harsher on the policies of the businessmen and wanting a little bit more control. Well, usually people don't like that. And so the businessmen, who were mostly Americans that had come down there to make money, decided to overthrow her and decided that she was not going to continue doing what she wanted to do. And they tried to take over. Well, the U.S. minister to Hawaii actually sent troops, American troops, into Hawaii to kind of enforce this takeover of Hawaii. And Harrison was in the process of negotiating a treaty of annexing Hawaii at the end of his term. So, annex really means that you are taking over a foreign country, and most of the time by force. So remember what happened with Texas? Americans had gone down, didn't like the way it was being run, so they decided we're going to take over. So it's kind of the same thing happens in Hawaii. And so Um, it was happening at the end. So that's what I mean by aggressive foreign policy. Benjamin Harrison didn't have any problems with this. He was just going to let it go through and thought it was a good idea because we would gain more territory. But it was still pending in the Senate when he leaves office. I'm going to give you a little bit of a note ahead. Cleveland doesn't like this idea. He thinks that this is bad. He thinks the U.S. is being pushy and that they're extending beyond their rights, and so he doesn't approve the annexation of Hawaii and actually tries to stand up and help the Queen during this time. So that's a little bit of a head note. Okay, and this is a picture here of the Queen. Meanwhile, a few things going on in the country. Okay, 1890, we have some more dealings with the Indians. Around 150, the numbers are iffy. We don't know the exact amount of numbers. But 150 Sioux, which was the tribe, Indians were killed at Wounded Knee, which is a place in South Dakota. It was the last major fight with the Plain Indians. This kind of ends a lot of the battles. These were a lot of men that had served under General Custer. And remember when General Custer was killed by the Indians. And a lot of people believe that this was motivated by revenge. They were supposed to go in, they were afraid of this group, was kind of, they were called I think it was called the Spirit Dancers, and they believed that they would actually be given power over the white man. So they were trying to capture these groups that were still out there and refusing to come to the reservation. So they had sent these soldiers to find these Indians, and when they got there, pretty much the whole group was surrendering. Well, no one knows exactly what happens, but someone's rifle goes off. Don't know if it was the white man, if it was the Indians, don't know. A rifle goes off, and then everyone starts fighting. The soldiers start shooting everybody, and the Indians don't have guns, and so they have hardly any defense. And a lot of the people that were killed at this battle, not really a battle, were women and children also. So this is another sad event that we see in kind of our harsh treatment of the Indians. Okay, 1892. While all of this is going on, there is a massive amount of people, immigrants from different countries coming over, from Germany, from Italy, from Germany, Italy are big ones, Ireland, all kinds of people that are coming over from Europe to come to America because this is where you can make it. There's land here. There's opportunity to be whatever you want to be. There's education. Remember, lots of other countries weren't like that and still aren't now. So they were hearing about this land of the free and coming over in thousands and thousands and thousands. Well, there wasn't a place to kind of process them and kind of see who they were, see where they were coming from, make sure a lot of times doctors were there to kind of check out and make sure they were healthy before coming into the United States. So we built this place called Ellis Island. And Ellis Island was in sight of the Statue of Liberty, and it was the place where the immigrants would come to first, and they would stop there and be processed, meaning they would give you your name, tell you what's your occupation, why are you here, you would see a doctor, so you go through all of this processing as you were coming in. So Ellis Island was that place as they were coming in, and they could see the Statue of Liberty and know that they were almost there. Think of the money that it would take. We talk about people moving out west and leaving their families, but what about leaving a different country? So many of the people here in the United States now can trace their ancestry back to these European people who left everything and came over to have a new life. Maybe you have some Italian in you. Maybe you have Irish. Maybe you have Scottish. Um, maybe you have German. All of that is because someone left what they had to come and um, find find hope. Remember in Holes, Elia, okay, he didn't have anything there. He left and came. Okay, last lady. This is kind of an interesting person. Her name is Carrie A. Nation. Carrie A. Nation. And she felt like her name was a sign. And she was a crusader for temperance. Temperance was the belief that people should not drink alcohol. Okay, so there were a lot of people at this time using their freedom, using their money. Remember, in the West, we have a lot of these saloons that are popping up in all of these towns that are coming up because of the train, because of the mining industry, because of all kinds of different things. The West is being built up at this time, and along with that is all of these saloons that are coming in. Well, what's happening? The men, mostly men, are going into these saloons, using their money, wasting their families' money and earnings, sometimes going home and being unkind to their families. And so there are some movements coming up of temperance, meaning, and mostly women, very religious women, that are standing up for the fact that we should get rid of alcohol. And so Carrie was one of these, and she became a crusader. That means, like, this is what she believes, okay? But here's how she did it. She had a hatchet, and she would go into these saloons and, like, break up the saloons with her hatchet. And then she raised money for part of, I guess, for her living, by giving speeches and talking about temperance. And guess what? Selling little souvenir hatchets. I think that's kind of funny. Um, but it happened. And I didn't even know. I was looking for a picture. And this is in Kansas. And there is a statue of Carrie A. Nation. See, she's got her hatchet and she's got her Bible open. Because, like I said, a lot of these temperance people were very, very religious. And that's a battle that even Christians have now. How do I stand up for a cause that I believe um, is right, and do it in love, and do it in a way that honors God? How how far do I go? And there are a lot of people that still would act like Carrie A. Nation and still be violent in their protest, even against something that's ungodly. But do we fight violence with violence? Kind of an interesting idea, isn't it? So she's an interesting person. It's an interesting concept to ponder. I don't necessarily have a right answer for it. There's lots of different views of this, but it's interesting to think about, isn't it? Okay, so there's some food for thought today, something to munch on for a while today and to think about. And I want you just to tell me how you're doing below. Tell me you got it. I don't have a question for you today, and move right along.